The What to Read Next podcast helps you build a TBR of future favorite books. In each episode, Lori and Mean interviews authors and book influencers to recommend books they loved for you to pick up today. If you're an avid reader, always looking for your next great read, then the show's for you. Hi, Harper. Welcome to What to Read Next podcast.
Hi, Laura. Thanks so much for having me here.
So happy to have you here. So tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Just a lot of writing. And the beginning of the year has been super busy. I had a book due. I mean, busy in a good way, not complaining, but I had a book due, which is always stressful, especially after, the holidays, and you have Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays right around each other. Yeah. But my husband is Chinese, so we also celebrate Chinese New Year, which New Year's Eve was the 31st. New Year was February 1st. So there was that to get. So that's another holiday right there. And then we have 2 birthdays in our family this month. So it's just been super busy.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine. And then you have writing too. So.
And I'm trying to I got my book turned in and now I need to start the next book. But I'm like, I just need to take a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So what do you do in between projects? Like what can be a ritual just to kind of like set the tone for the next project so you don't burn out,
I like to save a book that I've really been looking forward to reading, like a really good fiction book, usually a romance, sometimes a thriller, just because that's a little treat that I get to do and enjoy. But then I also try to do a lot of nonfiction reading, like historical research and things like that, because that's really where all my plot bunnies come from. Just reading the research, because you read some negative information and you're like, oh, I want to read more about that. And you could spend a day just researching something. And it's better to do that between books than while you're trying to write a book.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you writing now? Are you still writing Gilded Age Victorian or?
Yep. I just turned in the 4th book in the Gilded Age Heiresses series.
Oh my God.
This will be Camille's book, she was in the prologue of book 1, having to be forced into marriage to this much older duke. Mm-hmm. And it was not a good marriage for her. And then that book wasn't originally scheduled, but a lot of readers were like, can you please have her story? And after putting her through the ringer in every single book, I was like, okay, I have to write her happily ever after, because if anybody has ever deserved it, she does.
She does. I just knew. And she reminds us of Vanderbilt, the one who got married off, the heiress who got married off. And
Consuelo. Consuelo Vanderbilt was actually, her story was the inspiration for Camille's story.
Yeah.
And actually the whole series, my friend told me, she toured one of the mansions in, Newport, Rhode Island, or the cottages as they call them, although they're palaces basically. And the tour guide was telling her the story of Consuelo Vanderbilt, and she had been born, and her parents knew, or her mom especially, from an early age, she wanted her to marry a duke because she'd seen all these women married into those families, and she trained her. She had her educated in languages. She really wasn't able to play with children her age because it was always about training her to become this perfect lady. Mm-hmm. She even had this piece built that was like around her waist and came up her back and held her neck and chin up so it would help her posture. And she was forced to wear that every day for hours a day just to have the perfect posture. And on top of all that, of course, she wanted to marry someone else that she'd fallen in love with, and she wasn't allowed to. So they say she was crying when she went down the aisle to marry her duke, because, and for his part, he didn't want to marry her either. It was for the money. I think there was someone else he was more interested in. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of the impetus for the whole series, really. I heard that story and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to research this time period and these people and write about it.
Yeah, I love Gilded Age. I have something to be said about Americans like thriving in the business and making money, and then be like, well, we're gonna go back to England and marry some dukes and some lords, like let's just infuse some money back to England, even though we we fought against them 100 years ago.
Exactly. It's like they completely forgot about that. And it was all about the status that they could get by marrying those people.
Yeah. So much of their series is about that. It's about the status. It's about like this family who couldn't get into the Astor, 400 ballroom. It was like,
right.
well, we're just going to go to Mayfair and make it big.
Exactly. You can't kick us out of your ballroom if, we have a duke in our family. And, that's pretty much what happened for real in history. Mm-hmm. There were like, I want to say like 350 of these marriages over a period of several decades.
Yeah.
And that's how they got into society. They broke through the old money barrier.
Yeah, so good. It makes such a great story. It's such a juicy story because I think it brings you the odds, like the Americans doesn't know their society rules and like how they're supposed to act and how it's supposed to behave, and they're brash and they're like rowdy, and then society being like, no, you need to act this way. The English is not expectations, and it makes like this nice little clash of conflict that
it does. Yeah, you have the conflict sort of built in.
Yeah, so let's chat about book 3, which comes out this month. Lady Tempts and Heir. It's gonna come out when it's published. So tell us a little about it.
So it's book 3 in the series, and this is Max Crenshaw's story. He's the brother, and his sisters were the ones their parents were trying to get the sisters married off in the previous 2 books. Mm-hmm. And he had to cross the Atlantic Ocean to save them both times. So, of course, he thinks he's safe from his parents' marriage plans, but his dad has a health scare and he's back in London. And of course, his dad tells him, well, guess what? You need to secure the family legacy. Mm-hmm. You need to get married and start having children. And of course, he bristles at that. No, I'm not going to do that. And Lady Helena has been in all the books as sort of a family friend. So he goes to her for help, and she's the obvious choice to play his fake fiance until he can get the company and the finances set up. So his dad has a little less control. And then, of course, she has her own reasons for not wanting to get married again. She's a widow. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much the setup for the story.
Yes, and I have a thing for widow heroines because I feel like they have freedom that normally like society debutantes don't have. Like they've been married, they don't have to deal with like the expectations, or not like they have a freedom to do whatever they want. They have passion project, and Lady Helena has a passion project that she wants to see through.
Yeah, it's so true. I really loved writing her because of the freedom. With the other 2, I mean, I guess August wasn't necessarily a debutante. She was around 23, but she still had those rules placed on her. And with Lady Helena, it's like, I didn't really have to think too hard. Well, how can I get them along to have a conversation? How can I have her go do this? And with the others, you're always like, well, where's the chaperone? It's just the logistics of the whole situation. And I didn't have to worry about that with her. So it was nice. And she does have her passion project, which is the London Home for Young Women, which I was glad to be able to write more, because one thing I love about the Gilded Age is just the extravagance on one end of the spectrum, but then the sort of poverty and just the terrible effects of industrialization on the other. You have all of that to work within as a writer. Mm-hmm. So I was able to bring that in with her helping these unwed mothers, most of them, and orphans, and just being able to shine a spotlight on, well, it was great for some people, but then these are the negative effects of that, sumptuous wealth.
Yeah, and I love it. And yeah, Lady Helena and Max took a road trip together in the previous book. So there was like some hint that it was going to be the couple, but I love the fact they were like, she has the freedom to go take a trip, to go find Max's sister,
Right. So, she can hop on a train when she wants to.
Yeah, she was like, I am going on a train, and we don't need to worry about my chaperone. And like, well, exactly. So awesome. And so what can we expect with Camille? Camille's going to get a happy ending. Is that the hope?
Yep, I just sent in my rough draft. It was a tough book to write just because, oh gosh, working through just the leftover trauma that she went through, the poor thing, even though the book's 2 years later.
Okay.
So it was a tough book, but yeah, it's finished. So she will get her happily ever after. I don't have a release date yet, but hopefully.
That's fine. It was a great news for the readers who have been dying for Camille's book that it's coming. We can wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's coming. She's getting her happy ever after. So.
She is, I promise.
Awesome.
And I have to say, Jacob, I didn't really get to write much of him in the previous 2 books. He did show up a little bit in the second book, a little more. But can I just say, he was the perfect hero. As I'm writing him, I'm like, okay, I need to give him more problems because he is just too perfect.
Yes. Oh, but this is exciting. I love this. Like she's gonna happily ever after with the perfect hero. With add a little problems here and there, but it's a perfect fit for her. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's perfect. So hopefully readers will too.
I love this. Oh man. So let's switch gears a little bit. So let's have some book recommendations. Which books will you recommend our listeners to pick up?
Let me see what I did write down. So one coming up that I really loved is The League of Gentlewomen Witches by Nia Holton. I don't know if you've read the first book, but it's very much fantasy with historical.
Yeah.
And I really can't say which one it would lean more toward. It's sort of a perfect mix. It's a little bit, reminds me, just the feel of it is like Princess Bride.
Yes.
So that one definitely, I loved it so much. And I love the first book. Her writing is just great, but the second book, I want to say I liked it just a little bit more just because I really loved the witch aspect, which was not so much in the first one. So that one was a really good one to review. Another one is, well, if you like My Heiresses, and especially the first book where August, was a businesswoman, then you're definitely going to like A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. So I believe it's around 1890 or late 1880s, but it's mostly set in Paris, and her hero is a Scottish hero, which is always nice. Yay! Because you get the accent. And she's from the Dominican Republic, and she's there trying to sell her family's rum that she's inherited the distillery to people in Paris at this big expo. So it's really cool because you get that, she's in control, taking charge of her life, but she's also coming up against these barriers that women face then and even still face to this day to an extent. And then you get her yummy hero. So it has a little bit of everything in it, which I really enjoyed. Another one I would recommend is The Mozart Code by Rachel McMillan. I would call it historical fiction romance. It's definitely historical romance, but there's a lot of just really great world building. It's set after World War II, but before the Cold War. So it's got this really great 1940s, like I picture it at night, those old movies where the characters are walking outside in trench coats and it's raining, and it's set in Vienna, I think. So it's really got that really good atmospheric feel that you get from those old Hollywood movies.
Oh my God.
And there's a little bit of espionage, but not too much, but it's really good. So those are the ones I've read lately.
I really love all these recommendations. Adriana is like a go-to author for me, and I'm dying to read her historical romance where she's going to take it. Like, I love that she's bringing some Dominican Republic, representation to historical romance.
Yeah, it was really good too.
Yeah, and the movie sounds so good. That one sounds. I haven't read like 1940s. Like, I think I read like a lot of World War II fiction and Cold War, but even that little pocket of
it's that little gap in between. You can
yeah.
see the Cold War's coming, and they're in Austria trying to sort of track this stuff from World War. It's just really cool. I loved the atmosphere of it, and it's something that I have not read much of, so
Yeah.
I think it's definitely worth picking up.
I love this. So tell us where you can find you online.
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and a little bit on Facebook, though not as much on Facebook anymore.
Exactly.
But I love Instagram. I just love the pretty pictures, and it's all at Harper St. George.
Awesome. Thank you, Harper, for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with friends, subscribe, rate, and review the show. This is the easiest way to support the podcast. Today's episode's partner is Libra FM. If you're an audiobook listener, then you should add Libra FM as your go-to source for paid audiobooks. Libra FM makes it possible for you to buy audiobooks through your local bookstore. Memberships start at $14.95, and they also have great sales for women's audiobooks each month for $3.99, thanks to the Kiss Club. To sign up for Libra FM, please visit whattoreadnextblog.com/LibraFM. You will receive a free audiobook when you sign up for a monthly subscription. If you purchase a subscription through our link, you will be supporting the podcast at no cost to you. The What to Read Next podcast is part of the Frolic Podcast Network. Please visit frolic.media/podcast to discover new shows to tune in. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.